Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Steve Alexander. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this month's MSP Ignite webinar. As always, we're excited to be bringing the webinar series to our members and invited guests. While we normally bring you content from our consulting partners, Augmentt has really stepped up as an emerging technology that we'd like to share with you some more information as they keep developing new solutions. So before I introduce our speakers, just to give you some logistics and ground rules, we are recording this session and we will send you an email after this webinar with a copy of the slides and a link to the MSP Ignite YouTube channel. You'll be able to watch this again, share it with others, whatever you like. You will all remain muted during the presentation. However, please use the Q&A button to ask questions along the way. We will be moderating. There is a Q&A section at the end. But if any of the questions seem timely enough to jump in, I'm sure we'll jump in and take care of them right then and there. So please use the Q&A button, not the chat feature. Our presenter today is Gavin Garbutt. Gavin is the co-founder and former CEO of Enable Technologies, which was a pioneer of RMM technologies for IT service providers. Gavin has been a founder of 7 successful startups and is responsible for corporate governance, strategy, and corporate financing. He has received a host of industry accolades, actually more than I want to take the time to list right now. But the one that always stands out to me is the fact that he has been named one of Deloitte's most innovative and influential executives of the year more than once. As IT moves to the cloud, Gavin is helping MSPs see how they can easily modernize and expand their managed services to include SaaS monitoring, SaaS security, SaaS administration, SaaS license optimization for cost savings, consulting services, and more. So Gavin, good afternoon. Take it away.
Steve, thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be here with you again. Our second meeting with your group, and the first one was around SaaS management, and today we're going to be talking about really how to easily scale and grow your SaaS security services. So this is an interesting topic. We've been working diligently for the last year with security specialists, MSPs, and very mature MSPs on exactly what does a channel need to really grow and scale the security services. So this is a super exciting topic, and Ali has joined me. Ali is our VP of Product and Customer Success. And Ali will be giving us a lot of the use cases and actually how to actually do this. So if we could move on to the next slide, that'd be great. So we've got a quote from one of our actual advisors, Tom Snyder. Tom is a MSP out of California. He's got a 60-person shop. I've worked with Tom for probably the last 18 years. And they specialize on security, and they've developed an incredibly sophisticated practice. And this is what we're hearing from basically all of the CISOs, all the security consultants, and all the MMSPs, is that it's been great to manage traditional IT, but now it's critical to start managing cloud software also. And you need to have the tools in order to do that. So we'll be talking to you about what that means and how to do this. And from Augment's perspective, what we're particularly excited about is at large, how do we help the channel evolve their managed service offerings? In the early days of Enable back in 2000, when we launched the first RMM for traditional IT, it was a journey helping VARs transition the business to proactive and then to manage. And now we're in that same boat where cloud services, it's become critical for MSPs to help their customers be able to audit and monitor that, help them from a security compliance perspective, from a license administration, license optimization, as well as SaaS backup. And so these are areas that we want to help MSPs improve their business models, because we think if you look at your business and you think about where it's going to be 2 to 5 years from now, these are going to be critical services that will probably make up 75% to 80% of your revenue. And the traditional routers, switchers, servers, desktop management will certainly be part of your service offering, but probably a lot smaller part and probably a bit more of a utility service. So we're really excited to be working with the channel. And the why in this, why should you do it? Well, you want to help clients as IT moves to the cloud. And I don't know if you saw Microsoft's results that came out yesterday, but their Azure cloud services grew 50% year over year. And which was way above expectations. And the transition to cloud services just accelerating and beating everybody's expectations. And so we view this as a new and very profitable opportunity for managed services to get into. And it allows you to have a competitive differentiator. If you're going in and doing an audit, showing the customers where they have compliance and security issues, and your competitor is not doing that, then that gives you the advantage to go out and win new business. And then again, as I said before, we believe this will be a major part of your revenues in the future. And so let's get in there and let's start building these services now and improving current services. So these are just some interesting stats that I thought I would share with you. I think we're all hearing it from our customers. Everybody's adopting SaaS at an unprecedented rate, especially with COVID and everybody going to work from home. The environment has changed. Traditional IT that could be locked down on the network and everybody was in the office was one thing. And the distributed environment and distributed applications has created a whole other thing. And Microsoft says that they have 30 million fraudulent sign-in attempts every day on their cloud services. And of those, 1.2 million result in breaches every single month. Now, the crazy part is only about 11% of accounts have MFA enabled, and 99.9% of those that were hacked did not have MFA turned on. I think we're getting a bit of a story here that maybe MFA is important and security policies are important. And Gartner says now through 2025, so this isn't just a 2021 problem or 2022 problem, this is an ongoing problem. 90% of the security failures will be the customer's fault. And we all know that when the customer has a failure, it's not the customer's fault, it's their IT service provider's fault. So this is something we all have to be cognizant of. And the average ransomware is getting $4.6 million. And we know that the vast majority of our customers, if they had $1 million ransomware breach, that would probably put them out of business. So what do we have to do to make sure that their environment is secure? And that's what we're going to be talking to you about today and how to do it in a scalable way. This is really interesting. Flexera did a report for 2021 State of the Cloud report, and this was 750 SMEs, and so there were small businesses, medium, and enterprise businesses involved in the survey. And the top challenges for these organizations, you can see number one was security. Number two was managing cloud spend. And this is a very interesting one as well. Then governance, then lack of resources and expertise. So 75% of these organizations did not have the internal skills. And many of them didn't feel they had the external skills to help them properly. And then from a compliance perspective as well. So those being the top five, it clearly shows that our customers, your customers need this support, and we want to help enable you to deliver that support.
Yeah, and I think that the cloud infrastructure, cloud software, it's all great technology. It's enabled so much in business. We have everybody working from home, but the pendulum's swaying too far too fast, right? Every employee in the company can go spin up a new cloud instance, a new cloud piece of software. So security being number one is no shocker. We see that a lot more governance and kind of putting reins around this is definitely needed. So, maybe I'll jump in and kind of talk about what we're hearing from a lot of our partners. So, I would say that every service provider out there knows that I can't have unmanaged devices on my network, right? So it is not okay that people bring their own laptop and that is not corporately managed. It doesn't have AV, doesn't have any backup, etc. That thing becomes a gateway for malware and all sorts of problems on the network. So this kind of 100% managed strategy has been around for quite a while. And I know a lot of service providers who do really good audits when they onboard a new customer, because you really want to scour and find every little thing, even that server that's kind of tucked in some back room covered in dust. We still need to know about everything. Anything that's on the network is a vulnerability point. But what we're seeing is that despite this philosophy, a lot of service providers and a lot of businesses are okay with having unmanaged cloud endpoints, right? So that they don't typically think of Microsoft 365 as an endpoint on par with a server or a piece of network device. But it really is. If we think about where the data lives, what's happening, what the trends are, how people communicate, all of the most sensitive information is moving into this cloud software. And most businesses essentially have an unmanaged or non-secured strategy when they approach these. At Augment, we like to say that cloud software or SaaS software doesn't care about on-premise security. And if you really think about all the fences and the security measures that you've put in place, if we build this kind of bottom up from the actual device someone uses, the network, and then the cloud application they're accessing, we look at the desktop, and the desktop should probably have some sort of monitoring, management, remote control. We're securing it by limiting the user's permissions, deploying AV, not allowing them to install new software, the AV scanning for malicious behavior. At the network level, of course, we have a firewall, DNS, or some sort of network security in place. The problem with all of this is that a business application like Microsoft 365 is 100% approved. Of course, we're not going to block that with AV, and of course, we're not going to block it at the network with DNS. So when we think about this, in the case of Microsoft, there are users who are not allowed to install locally. That's kind of the cheapest Microsoft license that you can get. So in a sense, their data is streamed like Netflix. It's not owned, it's not sitting on the device. So there's no data really on the device. They're streaming it, they're editing it, they're working with it, but it resides back up in the cloud. And when we move up to the network, almost always these business applications are 100% approved traffic, right? The goal of a firewall and a DNS service is to block, malicious content and certain types of websites. It's not really out there to block business applications. It's actually designed to allow all of these things by default. So when we think about this piece of cloud software and what it's doing and what it contains, it really does contain the bulk of the corporate information, right? So every email, all of the corporate files, all of the corporate communications in Teams. So there's a lot of really, really important information in there, but none of our traditional security methodologies and all of the layers that we have when it comes to security, all those tend to fall short when it comes to the cloud. And if we look at, what service providers are doing today, if we look at the device layer, it's quite possible that you're reselling hardware, you're supporting it, you likely are using a remote monitoring and management tool to interact with that, collect data about that device. You're locking it down via antivirus, user permissions, et cetera, right? So I would say MSPs kind of get a A+ scorecard on locking down the device, and pretty much the same for the network. I know not every service provider out there is actively reselling firewall and DNS and multiple layers of network security, but typically there's some level of security. It's a good money opportunity. There's hardware in there to make money off of. We definitely support it. If users are having issues on the network, we're going to fix that problem. And we're definitely going to have some layer of security that people can't just go do whatever they want on the internet. But then we get to the cloud layer, and from all of the research that's out there, it looks like about 90% of MSPs are reselling Microsoft 365 in some capacity, right? Could just be to one customer, could be to all of your customers, but the vast majority have some relationship with Microsoft and reselling it. But then we move it to support, And I would say it's kind of a gray area for a lot of partners. Some are going to have service levels where they will do full support, password resets, et cetera, on a Microsoft 365 environment. But I would say that that's still a new area for a lot of providers. But when we get to security, we start to see a big gap, right? And it's not due to a lack of interest on the MSP's part. Pretty much every partner that we talk to, there's a vested interest in keeping this cloud layer secure, right? Into locking down Microsoft 365 and preventing people to have access. But there seems to be a huge challenge in connecting the business stakeholder at your end customer with all of the problems that are out there and actually doing something about it. I think the media has done a really good job of talking about the problems with ransomware and all sorts of issues there. So the average business will understand that, I don't want ransomware. I don't want to get locked down. I don't want to have my whole business grind to a halt. So it becomes easier at the device layer to sell that kind of security. But at the cloud, people are like, what is the cloud and what data is there actually? So I think the next wave of security that the MSP is going to educate people on is definitely this cloud application, the fact that it houses all of the data for the business. And then how do we go about securing it, controlling it, having some policies around it, maybe not for every single piece of software that the business uses, but certainly the core pieces like Microsoft 365. And we talk to a lot of partners, and like Gavin said, we're consulting MSSPs and security analysts and all sorts of people all the time. It's how we've kind of come to the conclusion of what the best practices are, what the cybersecurity standards are for cloud. And we're really trying to bring all that expertise into the managed services market so that you can go to market and deliver this kind of service very, very cost effectively and secure your customer environment. And a lot of the partners that we talk to, they would, without blinking say, I think we're doing okay. We try to do our best to control who has access and offboard people quickly and do those kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is that very, very few, and I would say 1 out of 100 service providers we talk to have a really good process, product, people in place to actually manage this, monitor it, and take care of all of these problems. So I'm showing about 12 different security policies that are the best practices. These are things that you could be rolling out to a customer environment. But question number one is, are you enforcing this? Do you have a relationship with the customer where they're actually paying you to lock down all these different aspects of Microsoft 365? And I would say, first of all, the answer is probably not many customers are on board with this level of governance and security. So that's a problem we got to solve. And the second problem is, even if you did have a customer on board with it and you were delivering this as a service, there's going to be a time element, an expertise element, and all sorts of issues with you going to market and delivering this in a cost-effective manner. So if I just pick on a couple here, of course, MFA, Gavin showed some of those awesome stats. It's kind of a no-brainer nowadays. Microsoft said 99.9% of the breaches that happened in 2020 didn't have MFA enabled on those accounts, right? So this alone is a fantastic place to start, but of course it's not the end. MFA alone is not a comprehensive security strategy. We go down the columns on the left and we look at, there are still legacy authentication methods, and anything that is old is something that the hackers and the bad actors are going to exploit, right? So we need to shut down, close the door to some of those legacy authentication methods. Email could be an example of that, where email is one of the easiest things to compromise. And if that's the two-factor authentication method, people now have access to your email and they can get the 2FA code. They're easily into your account. When it comes to blocking countries by their risk or blocking IPs by their risk, I would say that Microsoft has the raw tools in place, but not great for monitoring, not great for doing it across 50 different customers that you might have. But if your customer resides in North America and has 0 employees abroad, we should probably be blocking all of those countries from logging in to your customer's cloud environment and accessing all of their data. I'm going to go to the top right and talk data loss prevention. So I would say data getting out of the building or bad guys getting access to the data is a huge concern. So having policies around how to protect the data, preventing guests from joining Teams meetings by default, preventing employees from sharing OneDrive data externally, and then we start to get into all your password reset policies. So you can see that there's, it's not a laundry list. There's not 100 things that you need to do, but we think that in the coming years, and certainly this year, a lot of service providers are going to have to ask themselves the question of, what's my stake in the ground, and which of these are a must-have for my customer's environment? Because having nothing leaves me exposed as a service provider. So there's got to be some level of security in place. We have to have some standard or some policy that applies to all of our customers. The question is, which of these are going to go in there, and how strong of a line are you going to hold? And you're going to have to work with your customers and educate them. But certainly doing nothing can't be the answer at this point. And then at the bottom, just to kind of further drive this home, and feel free to share all of this with your customers, globally, there are only 11% of Microsoft users that have MFA turned on. And when you think of how large Microsoft is and how many enterprise customers they have, where they have, an organization that has 100,000 employees, you would think that most of the enterprise should have this enabled by now. It still hasn't caught up, and it is the number one reason why the bad guys are able to break into and access Microsoft environments. So, we'll talk MFA till we're blue in the face, but we certainly think that there's a whole slew of other things that we could all be better at doing when it comes to cloud software.
So it's interesting because, as we said, we speak to a lot of security specialists, MSPs, MSSPs, and the one thing that, when I ask people what keeps you up at night, what gives you the sweats and makes you have nightmares, it's a customer calling me and saying, I've had a data breach. How did this happen? How do we correct this? Who's responsible? How much is this going to cost me? Is my business at risk? How much data did I lose? And the MSP has to answer those questions in some way, shape, or form. So this is MSPs are saying, I don't want to just get alerts on stuff. I need to be able to manage things, and I need to, just like in my old MSP days, early MSP days, I have to go from being reactive to being proactive, and then I'm going to have to mature to be managed.
Yeah, and really, I would say from a security philosophy, the question is, do I want to get an alert for every piece of suspicious activity, or do I just want to have a good policy in the first place that has the MFA that blocks certain countries that my employees will never go to, and just to have a good security posture in the first place? So I believe we have a poll that we're going to push up. It's on screen there, but that's going to pop up for everybody now. So if you want to go ahead and take a minute just to give us your feedback. So the question is, what is most important to improve your client's security posture? We were kind of debating this internally on, is it going to be the policies, the passwords, the just full lockdown? But, we're kind of curious to hear from you what you're seeing out there. So interesting, yet we're seeing a lot of responses for security awareness training. Certainly MFA being a big one, given some of the stats that we just covered. But again, we don't want to lead the witness here. Go ahead, give us your feedback on that. Okay, it looks like the numbers are settling down. So interesting, yeah. I think we're seeing a tie for awareness training for users and MFA, and I think that's pretty bang on. I think that we know. I'll just go ahead and end that poll. So, we know that, the problem, of course, is always between the keyboard and the chair, right? It's the user that has the bad policy or the bad password, opens the doors to the business. So training the users and locking down the account, certainly with MFA to start, is a fantastic place to start. So appreciate that feedback, everyone.
So, and I'm even more pleased that we all agree. So the interesting thing is, okay, great. We get it. We need to be better at securing cloud services, the application layer. Got it. So when we were thinking about all of this and working with these partners to design this product secure, we really wanted to understand what were the roadblocks and what was required in order for an MSP to really take advantage of growing and scaling their security service practice. And the first thing was being able to show value to the customer and for the customer to easily understand. So having a very compelling threat report where you can easily within minutes do an audit of a customer's environment and be able to show them all of the different threats that are happening within their environment, so that it's so compelling that you provide this report and you show them, here are all the breach attempts, and here are the individuals who are attempting to be breached, here's where it's coming from, etc. We need to fix these things, and then to be able to itemize and show them exactly what those are. So the first part is being able to provide a report that's compelling, that the business owner, your customer, will say, okay, great, I get it. You're showing me all these problems. You're recommending I fix these. How do I fix these? And so it's easy for you to sell your services to the customer. And it's not even that you're selling your services, you're just providing a solution. You shouldn't even be having to sell. You are just providing them with the solution to the problem that you demonstrated.
Well, and I think the thing that we kind of talk about internally all the time is there needs to be a different sales conversation, right? We can't use the vague fear, uncertainty, doubt of like, there's bad guys in the world and ransomware is a thing that exists. Like we want to make this tangible. We want to make it personal. And we want to have a conversation with a customer specifically about their problem, right? It's not the vague boogeyman that could come 10 years from now. This is currently the threats that exist in your environment and how vulnerable you specifically are right now. So we're hoping that this is a shift in the sales conversation for a lot of service providers.
The second part is once we've delivered the report, that initial report, then we can also have a secondary report where we've actually, because now we have the solution, the software that allows us to assess, identify, and prioritize the risks. So just getting alerts is no good. You need to understand what those risks are, identify and prioritize them. And then you've got to define what are the appropriate fixes for those high risk threats in your environment. And the whole idea is to improve the posture and to be able to reduce future threats. And so, those 12 policies we just talked about are examples of that. If we have a subset or all of those implemented into a customer. But now it's the idea of being able to have a solution that will go and be your junior analyst or your senior analyst and do all of that. Okay, those are all the alerts and threats. Let's prioritize them, and then let's understand exactly what we need to do to fix those. And then the third part is once you've helped the customer fix these and you're monitoring to make sure that they're staying on side, is to be able to provide them with a monthly report that shows all the value that you've delivered. So because again, it's like everything else, right? You fix things, a lot of things, and the customer is wondering, well, what's he doing for me now? What am I paying for? So to be able to provide a monthly report that shows, okay, these are all the threats that we blocked. Here are all the fixes that we did. And here's your ongoing score of your security score so that you can see continuous improvement over time and understand exactly what the value is that's being delivered. So having this 1, 2, 3, there's kind of 4 in there actually, but these three big cornerstones to help you show the value, figure out exactly what needs to be addressed, and then deliver that ongoing report to show what you've done is key to helping you grow. And that's what Ali's going to take us through now.
Yeah, and I won't reiterate everything Gavin said, but I think it is good to have kind of a 1,000-foot view of Secure, this product that we're about to show you in 1 second. So 4 kind of independent points, but on the front end, we've talked about this concept of a threat report or an audit, and this is where you're going to find risk in a customer's environment. But the goal is for you to have a different conversation with them in the actual sales call that you're in with them, right? So this is the free audit, free assessment that you give to a customer that shows them, hey, you know, the bad guys are banging down the door. Maybe you want me to do something about it. And then for those people who opt into this service, having those two elements in the middle, right? So a very clear MFA dashboard, just to have global visibility on every single tenant, every single user all the time, to know if you have reached your target goals with customers. And we know that, you know, customer environments can be complex, right? So sometimes you are going to go for 100% MFA coverage. Sometimes it's 100% MFA on internal employees and less for, you know, temporary contractors, et cetera. So there's all sorts of different strategies there, but just having global visibility of all things MFA is powerful. Then identifying the policies, the configurations, the security risks, again, globally for all customers, and then zooming into one customer environment. That's going to show you exactly what to go in and fix. So we're trying to highlight all those vulnerabilities. And then once you've actually fixed the problem, how do we actually have our next quarterly business review or our monthly discussion with our customer and show the value of the work that we've done, right? So the value of you doing that work in the middle of locking down MFA and configuring policies, the value is not that you turned on a security feature and you flagged a new policy. The value is that you're actively blocking threats. So what we want to show on that report is the actual number of threats that have been blocked because of all the work that you've done, and the fact that you're trending towards better MFA coverage, better security policies. And this really is what's going to help the modern service provider stand out from everybody else that's in their environment. So I'm just going to switch over and take a look at the product. Let me just load that up. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll walk through a sneak peek. We're actually launching this product November 4th, so feel free to hit the Augment website, register for the launch webinar. But we're going to take a look at Augment Secure really quickly now. And of course, feel free, please, to drop any questions that you have about the product in the chat. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have those 4 elements of the product, the threat report being that sales report. So we are going to integrate to a customer's environment, a customer who is not currently paying us for security services. And we want to show them everything that could possibly go wrong and is going wrong. So the goal of this report right now being filtered to the past 90 days is, hey, over the last 90 days, there's been 160 security events. These events are trending up over time. Things are getting worse. Here are all of the global people that are trying to log into your account. Oh, and by the way, we don't think that you have employees in these countries. So nobody should be trying to log in from these regions. From there, we go down and we continue this conversation to say, hey, you know, you're doing okay from a compliance perspective. You're not doing so hot from a security perspective. And we can take you a little bit into the details of that. And then just getting specifically into some of the hard-hitting risks. And because you've had the chance to pull this data out of their Microsoft environment, do a quick analysis, you should be able to go and look and see what are the top security events, who are the top people at risk. And, you know, from our experience, it's the executives in the company and the senior IT professionals who are almost always the people at risk. So you can almost always count on, in the top 5, top 10 list, that the CEO's name is there, the CFO, the head of IT, et cetera, right? So there's going to be some high profile exec or someone that you can say, oh no, you know, 30 security events against your CEO. What are those? And then we can drill down and we can start to have a very real conversation about their credentials are being leaked and for sale on the dark web. There have been anonymous IPs trying to log in. There was a brute force password hack attempt, et cetera, right? And this is going to be contextual to every single customer. And this really is the thing that we think is going to change the conversation in those sales calls. Today, the idea of vague ransomware threats and vague other threats, it's kind of hard for a business stakeholder or a typical small, medium business, small, medium enterprise CEO to really quantify the risk and understand what's affecting them. But when you show them that they personally have their credentials leaked and all of these other bad actors are trying to access their account, it really drives it home and it really makes it real. And then for you to turn around after that and say, hey, for a few dollars a month per employee, we can protect your whole business. It becomes a very different conversation and a very different sale. So if I jump over to the next part of the product, so we've used that threat report in our sales process to convince someone to, move up a tier in our service offering. So now they're at the platinum level, or maybe I've added an a la carte service that I'm going to take care of their security now. The next thing that I'm going to use on a day-to-day, weekly basis is I'm going to try to get this customer from 0 MFA to maximum MFA, right? Or optimum MFA deployment. And it's easy to go on the Microsoft portal and say, enforced for all employees the next time they log in. But we all know that that's not how it works, right? We typically take softer tactics. We say, MFA is required. You have 14 days to set up your thing. And most MSPs don't know how people are setting it up. Are they using email? Are they using the Authenticator app? So this is going to give you that complete visibility into everything, right? So I can see all of my companies. I have visibility into every single tenant. I see the status of, have I required MFA for them to be turned on? How many of the people have actually turned it on? And how are they authenticating? And this is great because let's say that we find out that security keys are no longer a great way to authenticate. And now we need to go reach out to all of those users and we need to switch their authentication method. I have all that information here. And then of course I can drill down and see all the people who violate policy, all the people that I need to go follow up with to get them their MFA turned on. So MFA being so important, we actually want to carve that out as its own piece of the product. Now I'll move on to the next piece, which is security posture. And of course, MFA is a piece of security posture and security configuration, but having just a global dashboard was kind of a no-brainer for us as we were talking to so many experts and analysts and even our partners. So again, having a multi-tenant view to go through all of my tenants, all my clients, see how many of the security postures that I want them to have, they actually have turned on, what their configuration status is, but more specifically to drill down and as part of this audit work, to go into someone's environment and say, hey, you're doing okay for admin MFA, doing terribly for user MFA, you don't have a branded portal, you don't have countries blocked by risk, etc. And just getting that visibility at a glance, but then exactly what the problems are and drilling into those problems, seeing who the users are that violate those policies and remediating the problem, right? So we're trying to give that kind of, a lot of partners who lack visibility to get you complete visibility into every single risk in every single spot. And then it's really up to you which of these problems you want to go fix immediately. You want to call the customer and say, hey, you got all these issues. Should we spin up a project to roll out a branded portal, block certain countries by risk, et cetera? So that's really going to dovetail into how you're going to lay out your service offering. You might have a all-you-can-eat full security package. You're just going to do everything all the time. Or you might only want to tackle some of the problems and then use other pieces as upsell for the next customer meeting. So assuming that we've done a great job of starting that MFA rollout, taking a look at the security policies, the configurations in place, we've gone and remediated some of those problems. Now we move on to this executive summary report. And the goal of this report is almost the opposite of that threat report. The threat report says, everything is terrible and there's bad guys knocking down the door. This report says everything's awesome and look how we're doing, right? We've prevented 143 security incidents. We are trending up and to the right, making things better over time. Your compliance and security scores are going up. When we look at your MFA status and registration, we rolled out this policy and we're seeing really good numbers. More and more employees are turning it on. And this becomes a perfect point where if things are kind of stalling out and we have 20 stragglers that are end users, we can say, hey, we've reached out to these people, they didn't turn it on. Do you want us to enforce it on their accounts or should we just leave it and not be a problem? It just really elevates your consultative experience in these calls with customers. So we think that that's going to be fantastic to show your value. And again, going into the details of, hey, we actually stopped this many bad events from happening to this user, this type of event. Now, between all of us, we know that Microsoft has a vested interest in blocking security risks, in blocking phishing emails, and blocking bad things from happening. So all of the work that Microsoft is doing by default, you get credit for here. On top of that, because you've added MFA and you've added better policies and you've removed some of the Microsoft defaults, the security has gotten better. But even if you did nothing, this report is still going to say Microsoft blocked 100 security incidents, and you get credit for that. So we really think that this is, that audit, sell the service, baseline a customer, and then monthly, you're just churning out good news after good news, because we don't expect security risks to go down anytime soon. So the more security attacks there are, the more security blocks there will be. So this report will always have a good story for that. So let me pop back into my slide deck. And I believe we can hand over to Gavin to talk a little bit more details about the product and the offering.
Thanks, Ali. That was great. I get excited every time I hear it. I'm looking forward to Q&A, and I'm looking forward in just a moment to hear what you think and get your questions. I thought I'd just share the pricing with you and special program that we have for the MSP Ignite members. So our normal pricing has volume discount, starts at 79 cents a seat, goes down to 40 cents a seat depending on the volumes. And the starter pack is 250 seats for $199 a month. And then after that, you can just feed as much as you need. So if you need 50 seats, then great. So you just a la carte buy what you need. The special program that we have for MSP Ignite is one, of course, you can have a free trial, and you can even get your hands on an NFR copy. And the starter pack is still the $250 for $199 a month. And what we're doing is we're giving you an additional 250 seats. So you end up actually getting 500 seats for the $199 a month, which is basically the least expensive tier at 40 cents per seat. And this is a month-to-month contract, so you're not locked in. This is very flexible, and we want to partner with you folks, and we want to help you grow your business. And so we want to provide this to you in a way that you would like to consume it.
Perfect. So I think we're going to jump. Oh, no, we got one more, and then I think we're jumping to Q&A. So if anyone had questions, get those in.
So on this slide, really what it is it's not just about the technology for us. We also have what we call Academy, which is our learning portal. So,
yeah, and maybe I can cover that,
yes,
Gavin.
please.
So my team on the partner success side, we are so invested in the success of our partners. I mean, we all win when you can get into customer environments, deploy, protect them. You're making money, consuming more of the Augment product. It's just a perfect partnership for everybody. So this go-to-market program that we have set up is, we basically built a library of business and technical training resources. So it's not a point of getting you into a free trial, getting you into the product, and then you got to go figure out how to sell it, how to pitch it, how to use it. So this Augment Academy is going to, walk you through sales motions. It's going to have sales decks, white papers, blogs for your website, how to market on LinkedIn strategies. Then on the technical side, the onboarding flow for the product, et cetera. On top of that, our team always gets on one-on-one with everybody, make sure that your initial setup goes very, very smoothly. And once you actually have real data pulling in, because you've integrated it to your own environment or to your first customer's environment, now when you're actually seeing data in the product, we'll walk you through everything and then help you get ready to go pitch to that first customer on that call. So you're really helping your security services shine in the best light. And then, working with our partner managers, it's not about getting into the first customer, it's about building a security practice. And we're there with you every step of the way, right? So we want to help you build the plan, the account strategy, talk about which customers are best to go to first, how to roll it out, and just keep growing across the board. And one of the most exciting things about Augment Secure, that threat report, is accelerating the rate at which you acquire new customers, right? So going into someone who's never done business with you before, showing them a very deep dive on some of the risks that they face, and them acquiring not only Microsoft security services from you, but hopefully everything else we talked to, right? Device security, network security, everything. So we really do think that this is the next wave of managed services, and we want to be there with you for that entire ride. I've been on maybe all of these calls with these partners to help them get up and running. And I think that, we want to be there with you, of course, but if you want to hear all of the success stories from all the people that we're talking to, how they're going to market, how they're charging for the product, et cetera, that's kind of, the goal of those onboarding and us doing our best to partner with you and grow you towards success. So we're there with you. We're there with our current partners. And we really want to see everybody lock down their customer environments and get rid of all these common risks and these breaches that we keep hearing about on a day-to-day basis.
All right, so now it's Q&A time. So please ask away. I think we've got a couple of questions here.
Okay, so let me just take a look at this. So first question I'm seeing is, how long does that security audit take? I can take that one. So it's a pretty straightforward setup. You're talking about plugging into someone's Microsoft 365 environment. So if they have a delegated admin for you, which most MSPs have, you're literally plugging that in, and then within a couple minutes, you've pulled down all the necessary data to generate that report. So for existing customers, just log in with your current creds. For sales prospects, you can literally do it in a sales meeting while you're on the phone with them or while you're on site with them. Okay, so someone was asking if we're getting this data from the network level or relying it from OS and the application. So I think maybe I just addressed that, but let me know if I didn't. We are directly connecting to the Microsoft 365 environment. We're pulling all of that data from Microsoft directly. So there's no need to deploy to the workstation. We do have an agent for other purposes for SaaS data collection. This is just a straight integration of Microsoft, and that gets you everything. Okay, so just a general question about integration with other alerting, SIEM products, et cetera. So yeah, we're definitely thinking about, what is the best hub for all of this information? A lot of MSPs live out of their PSA. A lot of them live out of their RMM. Really kind of depends on the task that you're doing. So that is definitely the plan, is to support, all of your major products. And I would say stay tuned as we start to release those integrations at the network, the RMM, the PSA, the SIEM level. We're talking to a lot of our partners on that.
Well, what I think is interesting also is what we talked about is secure today. We also have our product Discover, which goes out and does a full deep monitoring of all SaaS applications. So we recognize over 22,000 different SaaS applications. So you can see what employees are using, exactly what applications, which are not secure, which are not compliant, where you have license usage that is duplicate or unused licenses or underutilized licenses to help the customer also save money. And then we also have another module, Engage, which does the administration. So, okay, we notified on things and now we want to take action. So having a platform with these three modules provides you with that complete visibility of all SaaS applications, very deep on the Microsoft, and then also very deep on the administration of the Microsoft or Google Suites, et cetera. So anybody who would like information, we'd love to give you a demo of all of our solutions. We think that Augment Secure is something that fits exactly into your current practice today, and it's going to help you sell way more security services and deliver much stronger security policies and posture and help customers be much safer going forward.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So another question. They name a product. I won't name names here, but they're talking about alert fatigue and how do you minimize and mitigate alert fatigue. So, I think this is a real concern for a lot of partners and we kind of debated about this internally with this product Secure, right? Which path do you take? Do you take the reactive alert methodology, or do you take the proactive prevention methodology? And you can see based on the demo and everything we've talked about that we're really taking a proactive prevention methodology when it comes to security, because we think that if I have MFA turned on, if I have risky countries blocked, if I have all of the Microsoft defaults like OneDrive sharing and Teams guests, et cetera, if I block all the kind of attack vectors, then the alerts go down, right? The goal would be to eliminate all of the problems, not respond to 1,000 alerts that I get. So that's generally our methodology on that. Someone asked if there's an NFR available for the product. So there is, and generally when so Gavin talked about that package of the 250 plus 250, but at any tier that you purchase the product, you get an NFR for internal use. And really our goal there is that, use it internally, fix any issues that exist in your own business, but you want to have a live environment that you could show to a customer at any point. Now you can show the threat report, of course, at any time to any customer, but from an internal audit, internal cleanup, you could actually go to a customer and say, hey, we eat our own dog food or sip our own champagne, and we've cleaned house internally, and look at our own trending up and to the right on some of the security measures that we're taking.
Yeah, and actually on that also, the interesting thing is, for example, if you did the starter pack and you had your 500 seats, you can still go out to any one of your customers outside of the 500 seats and do that initial audit report.
Yeah.
So we allow you to go to unlimited number of customers and do that audit report and show them where they have problems so that you can then sell them services. Again, this is part of our strategy of enabling our partners to get out ahead of the competition, show value, and upsell and cross-sell services.
Yeah. Yeah, and good point. We should have mentioned that earlier, but the threat report, 100%, you can roll that out to every single tenant, 100, 200 tenants, doesn't matter. And the goal is to, again, have 200 security conversations and sell a ton of security services. Then the rest of the product, you only start paying when you're actually delivering a service. And I think that's kind of been our philosophy when it comes to building product for service providers. Last question I'm seeing here, if there aren't any others, and we can stay on as long as needed. But Gavin, maybe you can speak to this, but what do you think our partners are going to be charging for this when it gets live?
Well, actually, that's probably one of the best questions because what we're seeing is different partners doing it different ways. A lot of them are saying, great, we're going to come out with our platinum service and we're going to charge an extra $10 a month. And this is actually the differentiator where we're actually monitoring and helping secure Microsoft as an endpoint, the application as an endpoint, which basically nobody is doing.
Yeah.
Other than the advanced MSSPs. And so that's one way. The other way is an a la carte service where this costs you basically pennies per seat per month. And you would put this in as a monitoring. Everything else, as you saw, basically is automatically happening for you. And you would be charging anywhere from $2 to $5 per seat. So your margins are huge. This is going to also win you a whole bunch of project business to go and do these cleanups and help the customer either from an team education perspective, or just the general cleanups and getting everything in line.
Yeah, I was talking to a partner a couple of days ago, and what they were saying is that there's basically a chasm between the $10 Microsoft Business license and the $20, $30, $40 enterprise security licenses. So when customers at the $10 license, they're like, oh, I have a phishing problem or I have a security risk problem, I need to jump up to the $30 seat. Maybe they don't, right? Of course, if the customer is willing to pay, let's bump them up, and then hopefully you're reselling and you get a nice margin there. But maybe the answer is not go from $10 to $30 per customer across the board, and that's a $20 delta. Maybe it's a $5, a $10 charge on your end to manage those users, lock down the environment. And And just in general, we always see the best margins when it's your service, you control it, and you're not reselling other products in the mix there. So that's another go-to-market strategy with that as well. So like Gavin said, we see people trying to pull, a security light package and a security premium package. You're trying to pull people up to your premium tier. But even a la carte, there's a lot of money to make between those Microsoft licenses. So one more question just popped up about when will this go live in the Augment portal? So this is an existing partner. I would say join the launch webinar next Thursday, and you'll see all the details for that. So I'm not going to give too much away right now. But we are launching November 4th. If you go to the website, you'll be able to register there. And even on top of the webinar registration, if you just want to go to that Augment Secure launch page, there's access to free blogs and free white papers and ebooks and resources there to just kickstart and help you start selling security services.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think next slide.
Yeah, let's hand it back to our hosts.
Gavin, Ali, thank you very much. Great job. I'm going to tell you that my director of operations chatted me during this and said, I think it would be really valuable for, like a peer group company to be using Augment so they can share the results with all their peer group members. We can talk about that offline, obviously, but that was the suggestion I got that came to me. So great job. Thank you everybody for your time today. We hope you received some information that you appreciate. My personal belief is that Augment is spot on here, that we need to look for other ways to enhance our MRR outside of what we've been doing traditionally. And really looking at hosted services and SaaS products and saying that's the future, and how are we going to monetize that as service providers? And that's what Augment's bringing to us here. So that's fantastic. Thanks again, Gavin and Ali, for your time and expertise, and we'll see you guys all next month.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye now.